The original headbangers. Sheep with a secret. They have fed and clothed humans for eons. Thanks to a proud heritage. This is the story of sheep on the wild side. They're tough, enduring, with a head for heights, and totally bonkers. This is the world of sheep and goats. Nature's biggest buttheads. Sheep symbolize rural idyls around the world. They're a familiar sight to us all. And they should be. There are plenty of them. About 1 billion walking balls of wool. And 900,000 of their close cousins, the goats. Humans have been taking advantage of them for a while. They have been feeding and clothing families across the world for 11,000 years. After the domestic dog, they were the first animals that we tamed. Living cheek to jowl for so long, they feel pretty familiar. But what do we really know about them? To find out, we need to visit their ancestors, the wild family of sheep and goats. They're a funny bunch, long faces and vacant eyes. And with behavior that would give the hardiest a headache. They often seem to have their horns screwed on too tight. Most of us don't realize that there are nearly 40 wild relatives of our mutton, linked in a family known as Caprinae. Some are closely related and hard to tell apart. But the group is ancient and diverse. Not all are farmyard animal lookalikes. Some are light and gazelle-like. While others resemble giant, shaggy bison. Between them, they boast some of the most magnificent headgear. Another trait they have in common is their hardiness. Mutton can be tough. In more ways than one. They have conquered some of the most hostile terrain on Earth. From the hottest, driest deserts, where few other large mammals can survive, to avalanche country on some of the planet's highest peaks. Here, one hoof in the wrong place can spell disaster. And to the coldest of barren tundra, where they must scrape snow to find food. For the toughest of the tough, you can't beat the muskox. Mutton dressed as mammoth. Despite their name, muskox are not oxen at all. Their bison-like exteriors confused early naturalists. They're the giants of the sheep family and masters of their Arctic domain. Ice Age survivors, protected from the elements by thermal underwear or dense curly wool and almost meter-long shaggy guard hairs. This is living on the edge. Their land of ice is plunged into darkness for 6 months of the year. And even before the spring sun has the chance to melt the ice from under their feet, muskox lambs face a chilling childhood. The new arrivals quickly attract some unwanted attention. They don't have the hallmark headgear yet and could make for easy pickings. But muskox are team players. They huddle together. Lambs with their mothers in the center of the group. Angry adults, up to 400 kilos apiece, place their swords and shields on the outside. And the wolves quickly realize this is one fight they cannot win. The herd can relax and go back to feeding. To get by, sheep unite, a family trick for survival. There's still snow on the peaks in the mountains of Europe when baby chamois take their first steps. The delicate, doe-eyed lambs are perhaps the prettiest members of the family. More gazelle than sheep, and a far cry from the hump-backed muskoxen. Their wobbly legs strengthened by the hour as they explore the slopes. Dainty as they appear, the chamois are ancient survivors, Ice Age specialists, evolved to endure the harshest of conditions. But these first few months of life are the most dangerous. The herds live high on the slopes, beyond the reach of most predators like lynx and wolves. But the rugged terrain can't stop an attack from the skies. Eagle eyes can spot the tiny forms from 3.5 kilometers away. From a lofty perch, it plots. The sheep family have many enemies and only a few defenses. Golden eagles are the biggest threat to chamois of all ages. They have even been known to drive adults over cliffs so that they can clean up the remains. A little lamb makes for easy pickings, but a marmot sounds the alarm. The chamois often benefit from these little sharp-eyed neighbors. The mothers gather their little ones and watch the skies. They try to find a place where they can use the rocks to cover their backs. Their best defense, to stick together. The eagle buzzes the herd, trying to create panic and scatter the lambs. A mother calls. But now, there's one less in the herd. She searches in vain. But the wise matriarch of the group moves them on. There will always be predators, but having lots of babies helps sheep beat the odds. Herd life for chamois is a real sisterhood. Not only is the herd led by an older female, but the girls all work together. They run a creche, with 1 or 2 of the ewes babysitting, while their mothers take a well-earned rest. They suckle each other's lambs, and will even adopt any orphans. The kids seem to have forgotten their eagle ordeal. Now it's playtime. The alpine acrobatics are not only fun, but train them for their challenging life on the slopes. This is school for chamois. Bouncy boot camp. Lambs and their endless energy make human hearts melt. Throughout the world's cultures, we use the lamb as a symbol of purity and innocence. Easter, and a symbol of new life. Whether in the wild or bouncing around a barnyard, lambs share the same close bonds with their mothers. Being able to quickly rear 1 or 2 youngsters every year is one of the key traits for the sheep dynasty. All lambs share the insatiable thirst for milk. And above all, the endless curiosity to explore everything around them. These defining characteristics are present even in some of the most ancient members of the family. Lush green forests of the Himalayas are nursery to some 3-week-old Tarkins. Huge, primitive wild sheep. They still have dark baby coats to help camouflage them in the shadows. Though they're growing fast, they stay close to their mums, who keep constantly on the move to browse. It can be treacherous finding food. With the permanent high humidity, the rocks are slippery with moss and algae. To aid in their mountaineering, they have unusually large dew claws, spurs on the back of their feet. It doesn't prevent the occasional slip or dampen their adventurous spirits. They are lambs, born to play. The lambs don't normally have brothers or sisters, but living in small herds, it's never hard to find a playmate. Though they look a lot like the polar musk oxen, Tarkins are more closely related to other sheep. Sheep on steroids. They are adapted to the hot, humid jungle, a far cry from one of their closer relatives. There are few places that sheep and goats haven't conquered. The frigid mountains of Alaska are a hostile place to make a living. Dal's sheep are up to the challenge. These guys are born tough. Their playground, steep, crumbly cliffs, where one false move can trigger a landslide. By midsummer, the lambs are strong. They wrestle, a teaser for the adult's behavior later in life. So far, the lambs have never seen a big male, only their mothers, whose horns are slender and gently curved. This is typical of all sheep and goats. The females have more modest headwear. But for both sexes, it's all about the horn. On sun-kissed Mediterranean cliffs, wild goat kids are growing fast and already displaying their developing curves. But the horns don't help them get about. What does is confidence, compact, rubbery hooves, and a head for heights. All goats are good at balancing, a useful skill, not just to rock climb, but to get to food. Teetering on back feet extends their height. They can even climb trees. So few branches are out of reach. Thanks to their tricks, goats can make a meal of pretty much anything, finding plenty of forage among the bare rocks. Being high also keeps them out of the reach of many predators, like the wolves that patrol the hills. But today, it's something else that spooks the herd. Humans pushing into the high country with herds of the wild goat's descendants. The ability of wild goats to scrape up a living was one trait that made them attractive to humans. After thousands of years of catching wild goats, raising their young and keeping them in captivity, they were slowly tamed. Domestic goats are their direct descendants, and one of the few animals that still have the adaptability to compete for food with their wild cousins. Cows or horses would struggle to find food and water here, but the goats are quite at home. enabling farmers to push into remote country, displacing the wild goats. The last wild herds must live in uneasy truce. The only members of the sheep and goat family that are not bothered by humans and their domestic breeds are those living in the most remote and desolate conditions. Seasons are short in the Arctic. The muskox family makes the most of a rare sunny day. The thaw has unlocked lush vegetation, thriving in long hours of daylight. The lambs nibble, experimenting with the solid food, but still preferring to keep milk on tap. Muskox milk has twice the fat content of a domestic sheep's. The calves can double their weight in just a month. They will be weaned in 4 months, so need to grab it while they can. Summer's an itchy time. The lambs start to molt out their fluffy baby fur. They'll need a coarse winter coat before summer's end. Known as quiviot, muskox wool is the cream of the crop, soft and dense, with more than 40 hairs per millimetre of skin. Summer's a bountiful time for all sheep and goats. There's plenty to eat, and the lambs can grow quickly. In European forests, it's the chamois making the most of the seasonal greens. They still want milk, but they are getting a bit pushy. The mothers will soon wean them off, so they grab it while they can. Refreshed, they show off their acrobatic skills. Practicing their fighting moves, though they clearly need some work. The lambs are enjoying carefree days, but not their mothers. The ewes are always on high alert. The forest conceals many dangers. A lamb would make easy pickings for the lynx. But only if he can get close enough to ambush. His spots can act like an invisibility cloak in the shadows. But he's young and over-eager. Spotted. One bark and the herd's gone. They dash up sheer rock faces. Here they can survey and make sure they are not being followed. Thanks to their tiny rubberized feet, they are quite at home here and can feed and rest until they are sure the coast is clear. The chamois have it easy. Even on the rocks, there is lush vegetation. Not so in Arizona's canyonlands. Summers here are punishing. But the desert bighorn is a specialist. Skilled at finding the most inaccessible food. With resources in short supply, there is tension over sharing. The lambs need to learn their place in the social order, giving way to dominant older ewes. The ledges are not the best place to pick a fight. The dry vegetation doesn't hold much moisture. The sheep are experts at going without, but every few weeks they must find a drink. And that means going from canyon top to bottom, to the treacherous rapids that carved the great canyons. After the climb, they can cautiously quench their thirst. There is no mistaking the male bighorn, but he prefers to drink alone. For most of the year, he stays apart from the females and their young. A strategy used by most sheep and goats. Mountains again, but cold ones. Home of the Caucasian tur. Outside of the breeding season, the males form bachelor herds, and for the most part, rub along peacefully together. But as summer draws towards its close, they become restless. The young males frequently spar, testing their strength against one another. Information that might prove useful later on when they are deciding who to challenge. For the most part, it's playful wrestling. But some fights escalate. And soon the whole gang seems to be involved. The male groups don't compete with the females. They stick to the higher mountain slopes. With all the testosterone flying around, the females and their lambs are better off staying well clear. Even among the females, there are a few rude gestures. They have a strict hierarchy, and lower ranking and younger animals are reminded of their place. The youngsters need to learn the rules of the herd. And as autumn approaches, prepare themselves for some major changes. Autumn is the biggest time in the sheep calendar, and all species busily fatten themselves up in preparation. Muskox mostly eat mosses and lichens, but late summer offers a new treat. Mushrooms are rich in protein, a chance to bulk up ready for the coming season. There is already some tension in the herds. The males are starting to check out females, getting a look at the dating scene. The young seem to sense the tension. They test each other's strength, practicing a trademark headbutt. They've never seen it before, but their instincts are strong. They are rehearsing, and soon they will see with their own eyes, for the first time, just what their headgear is for. The arrival of autumn brings with it the highlight of the sheep calendar, the rut. A hormone-driven season begins for sheep and goats around the world. A herd of Pyrenees ibex is getting restless. The males have returned from the high country to join the female flocks. Things seem peaceful enough to begin with, apart from the odd tense glance between billy goats. But hormone levels rise. The male is following a female to get a good sniff, to test her hormone levels and see if she's ready to mate. But regardless of what her hormones say, her body language is clear. She's not ready yet. Throwing in some attention-seeking stomps, he tries again. Males are not taking no for an answer. They follow the girls around, knowing over the coming weeks they will relent. The males want to be in the right place at the right time. But no species of sheep or goats are monogamous. The males want as many females as they can get, but there are only so many girls to go around. To claim the lion's share, all of the males must prove themselves. The Urial, a mountain mouflon, found in the high country stretching from Iran to India, is well equipped. The ram tries to look alluring, draping his tongue out seductively. And twisting to try and make sure the ewes get a look at his rack. But try as he might, they don't seem particularly bothered. Their MO is to make him work for it. Flirting is hard work as it is, but he also has to outcompete the growing competition. If another ram muscles in on his ewes, he has no choice. A brawl breaks out. This is what his corkscrew curls have been grown for. It's taken them 6 years to reach their meter-long maximum. It's an arms race. The bigger the weapons, the more intimidating the male, and the better chance he has of impressing a mate. Beating other males is one thing, but trying to win over the ewes might take a bit more effort. Sometimes it looks like the rams have got their horns screwed on too tight. The headbanging can last for weeks. Among the most impressive of headgear belong to wild goats. The horns can be more than 120 centimeters long. Like most horned animals, their primary purpose is winning mating rights. But the goats have an added challenge. Their courtship must take place on sheer cliff faces. A prime male spots a female leaving her precious urine. It contains all the information he needs. He moves it to the Jacobson's organ in the roof of his mouth to run a quick test and check she's fertile. He likes what he smells. But the girls don't seem so sure. It's like a singles party. Single males making their moves left, right, and center. It's a party with lots of ups and downs. Many of the nanny goats still have their kids with them, who do their best to stay out of the way. The billy goat kicks up a stink. Not only because of scent glands around the base of his horns, but because he's drenched himself in urine to spice up his goat cologne. He wafts his pungent perfume as he walks. It doesn't seem to be to everyone's taste. But the Casanova isn't taking no for an answer. Staying power doesn't seem to be the strength of any sheep or goat. The mating itself is brief. It's the build-up to it that counts. It's all the thrill of the chase. And the males work hard. Eventually, he gets his goat. The wild goats come out on top when it comes to horn length. But on the other side of the world, on the hot, rocky slopes of Arizona, they have competition. For these guys, it's all about girth. In the southwestern deserts of North America, the desert bighorns are the kings of the canyons. They are the ultimate headbangers. Their colossal horns can weigh 13 kilos. Because a battering ram can do a lot of damage, they also employ a bit of ritual to help them pick their fights. Squaring up and measuring up. There's a lot of bravado and the odd cheap shot. Then there's always someone who crosses the line. They rush at 30 kilometers per hour and crash with an 800-kilo blow. Our skulls would shatter at just 1/60th of the force. But the ram's skull bones are only loosely fused, so they can flex on impact and are cushioned by large sinuses, built-in airbags. They might fight for 24 straight hours. In the desert, heat exhaustion is a serious threat. Their cousins in the Arctic Circle have the opposite problem. By the time the rut comes around, their home is already under snow. But for ewes to give birth in spring, they must mate now. And so the games begin. Dall's sheep are tough. 5-centimeter guard hairs keep snow out of thick wool beneath. A survival suit that lets them get to work. It's the same routine. A hormone test. A promising result. But he's not the only one to sniff her out. Not to be usurped, the first ram begins his performance, showing the ewes what he has to offer. The females are impressed by rams that show strength and stamina, traits they want to pass on to their lambs. But she'll have a decision to make, which male to choose. The rams are ready to rise to the challenge. With huge horns and brain-rattling blows, injuries are common. The ewe takes it all in, weighing up her options. One male seems to stand out from the crowd. Winter is a draining time, where overexertion can mean burning too many calories to have the fat and strength to make it through. The delicate chamois have their rut in late autumn too, but they take a slightly different approach. Shivering shimmies don't look very masculine. They look more like a shampoo commercial. But the hair shake spreads out the male's hackles, making them look bigger. They pose. Checking out the stats on their opposition. But this is less about horn size and weight. It's more physical fitness. In the Sheep Olympics, chamois are the racing kings. They can reach 50 kilometers per hour. Not easy on icy, rocky mountain slopes. Hardcore cross-country. It's a different way to sort the men from the boys. Last man standing will take the medal, or at least the title. The dominant ram who gets first dibs at mating. Once the rut has settled down, their main focus is survival. Winter can take a heavy toll on the herds. A matriarch leads them through the snow, drawing on years of experience to find the safest routes. Her trailblazing opens paths that the others can walk in. Winter still has its sunny days, and it brings new threats. Melting snow can shift. An avalanche can wipe out an entire herd. But the female's experience pays off. She leads her group above the loose snow. Here they can use their hooves as snow shovels to expose a meal below. The family Caprini are tough, and perhaps that's why they were singled out by our ancestors for domestication. The hardy animals can adapt to extreme landscapes, freezing temperatures, scorching plains, and poor terrain, finding food where there appears to be little to eat. With their good breeding success, we've enhanced the quick turnaround of lambs. And the rich milk that gives their young the best start in life is now collected to be drunk. Or turned to nearly 200 different varieties of cheese. Their natural desire to live in herds and follow a leader makes them easy for farmers to manage. And we've even taken advantage of their natural predator reactions with the help of another domestic animal. Sheepdogs help us round up the herds. We even count sheep to help us sleep. And perhaps most importantly, the fleece that protects them from the elements has clothed and protected its human wearers for thousands of years. And it might have been this incredible material that wrapped our ancestors to keep them warm and enable them to migrate into the cooler parts of the world. But our relationship is not all rosy. Throughout the world, wild sheep and goats are threatened, losing their habitat to human encroachment. And hunted for meat and trophies. Many are endangered. So perhaps now it's time to return the favor and offer them some help. They might seem like a bunch of crazy buttheads, but we have a lot to thank them for.